So, let's talk about Total War Arena. This is going to be an upcoming free-to-play game that I've been enjoying playing in closed alpha. This game is a great game, in my opinion. You get your 3 units, you run around, you have fun, everyone's happy, everyone has a good time, but there are several issues with this game that I have. At least balance-wise. The core gameplay is actually, for closed alpha, incredibly polished. I'm really impressed with what the developers have done, what people like Dogbert and whoever else works on it. I'm sorry, I'm sure other people work on it aside from Dogbert, but Sihei has really done a great job with gameplay mechanics. However, this game has some, I think, ideal flaws with how they're trying to balance things and how it works in some regards. Firstly, I'd like to start off with Pikes. Pikes, as they're implemented in Arena, are problematic. They're a purely defensive unit. In Arena, I think that all units should be able to be used in an offensive manner, okay? Even artillery, despite how defensive it is in theory, is able to reach out and get people and touch people and basically make themselves be felt over the map. Pikes, unless they drop Pikes, in which case they're useless, they're like rabble if you drop Pikes, aren't able to push up with their primary ability. They have nothing to keep them from being chewed up, and I think that with Arena, with how units are fast, how death happens quickly, and how the game currently works, Pikes, as they're implemented, are not in line with that, okay? Therefore, I think that the phalanx formation, which is what Pikes are going to be using to kill, has to be rethought and retooled a little bit, okay? And here's what I think could possibly be done with that, okay? Imagine the Pike phalanx moving at, let's say, 75% speed, okay? Instead of like the 25% or whatever the heck it is now. And instead of the weakness, the turn rate of the Pike, okay? So you have this unit moving forward at, say, 75% speed, and it's unable to turn, okay? Then you can add another layer to this, okay? Let's say that I'm pushing forward as the Pike phalanx and I'm unable to turn because when I have Pike phalanx on, I can only turn at a 10% rate, so I can't turn to face any other threats. Oh, there's another threat. I guess I have to turn Pike phalanx off, okay? If I turn Pike phalanx off, the moment I do that, I think there should be maybe a 10-second cooldown before I'm able to activate Pike phalanx again. So now, suddenly, I'm at a position, I have my Pike phalanx off, that basically means my Pike unit is worthless, so I'm forced to retreat, okay? But, if I'm able to engage with my 75% speed Pike phalanx, because they're, let's say, we're in the middle of the map, I put my Pike phalanx down, and I'm moving up at 75% speed, and so people start running away from me. I'm creating openings from my teammates. They're getting kills because of this. I'm doing the team good because I'm an offensive, aggressive force on the battlefield. But as soon as the enemy pulls back and I'm not able to turn to face them, and I have to bring my Pike phalanx up, they can see that and they can try to take advantage of it. So think about that. You have two things there, okay? Firstly, you have a way for a unit type to be aggressive, and you've worked in a weakness for that unit type that the enemies can see and try to take advantage of. So you have some tense gameplay possibilities there. Oh no, all these Pikes are moving forward. They're spread out, and we're in the center of the map. We're really being pressed back. Aha! But he's at this point where there's a large cliff, and he can't turn at all. And so now we can outplay him here. And now, aha, we've turned the tide. We've won. I think that should be the goal of Pikes. I think that should be the goal of any unit, to promote actual interesting gameplay and counterplay and counter maneuvers. And I think defensive Pikes won't work to do that. And I think that that would be something that needs to be looked at first and foremost. What can you do with these defensive units that just aren't that good? And I think that could be one of the ways you do it. Moving on, the other idea is to just rework Pikes. I'm not sure how you would do that. I think that the idea of them moving forward and just not being able to turn, but them moving forward at a much greater rate and being a much greater threat is a lot more interesting. Them always being relegated to this sit there. You're basically playing the role of wooden stakes at that point. You might as well just select wooden stakes, put things down, and play artillery, because then at least you have something to do. That's my main issue with Pikes, okay, as a unit type. My next issue is related to the trapping units. The concept of having trapping units, and you put your consumables on and you lay traps and everything, is interesting. It's a great concept. 10 out of 10 on the concept. There are a couple issues with how it's implemented in game, however. Firstly, your teammates are going to have incredible issues currently seeing traps like iron caltrops, and even wooden stakes can be incredibly hard to see in the forests. Therefore, you have to outline these traps to teammates. You have to actually make them visible to your teammates in a huge way, to make these viable for people that you're playing with that don't have TeamSpeak, that you aren't actually playing with. Okay, you have to make the traps very obvious to teammates. They fail if you cannot do that as a concept. They do not work in the not as a concept, but in the implementation, they fail if you cannot make these traps incredibly visible to teammates. Your teammates have to be able to make use of these traps, and for that they have to be able to see them. Heck, even when I'm playing the person who laid the traps, I'll lose track of my iron caltrops, and it's incredibly frustrating. So you need to work on that, and when I say you, I mean CA. Also, I think that traps should have, I think they should be focused more on effects, okay? What do I mean by that? I think that your team should be able to use them in ways that are interesting as opposed to you just killing units with them. Here's what I mean, okay? What if, let's say, a unit runs over iron caltrops, okay? And that unit, let's say it gets slowed, okay? They're walking on iron caltrops and the unit is slowed down as a direct effect of walking over iron caltrops, maybe for the rest of the game, okay? That might be a little extreme. Let's say, whatever, okay? This is just an extreme example. And what if, as a result of you laying that trap, you get a percentage point of XP for every person that attacks that unit on your team? Because now they're attacking the slow, vulnerable unit, and you did that because you laid iron caltrops down. I think you need to explore, and when I say you, I refer to CA, making these traps more effect-focused. Okay, a cavalry unit runs over, wooden stakes, and now they have injured horses, so now their morale is lower or something like that. Just explore making the traps less just about killing people and make them have some sort of supporting effect that also gives the player who laid those traps a percentage of the points, because I think that would be a good way to help your team, okay? And I think that that idea should be expanded upon, okay? I'll give an example, okay? Let's say Pelham, when you're a Roman player and you throw Pelham at a heavy infantry unit with shields, let's say their block chance lowers, because now they have their block chance lowers. I'm sorry, not slows. Their block chance becomes lower, okay? Because let's think about what Pelham did in real life, okay? Pelham pierced shields, made the shields heavy, and people would drop their shields, okay? This can be represented in-game by having block chances become lower for a set period of time, okay? Then you have an allied ranged player who tears this unit apart because they have lower block chance. You've just opened up a situation where more teamwork was used, a teammate used that, or heck, even yourself can use that if you just have like 2 Pelham Roman units and a ranged unit. But I think that overlapping team play needs to be promoted more in this game, and I think CA should explore ways of doing that, okay? Pelham lowering block chances of a unit, and then a slinger player taking advantage of that is just a very simple idea that would add a lot, I think. I also think this stuff should come into play in melee as well. For example, let's say a heavy infantry unit engages a cavalry unit, and maybe this is a heavy infantry spear unit. So what happens is that a passive slow is put on the enemy cavalry unit, and so now they can't get away because now they're fighting spears and so on and so forth. I think that if CA were to add effects like that played a lot more directly into the unit types, I think that would be great. Maybe horses engaged with spears has an attack debuff on the horses, okay? One of the directions CA has decided to go that I don't like is a lot of the abilities, and I'm going to make it more specific. It's Caesar's ultimate ability, which is the unorderable thing. It's Anvil for Alexander the Great, and Fear for Miltiades, or however the heck you say that name. These are abilities, I think, that are poorly designed, okay? These are abilities that take away totally the other player's control of their unit. And I think that it's just a nuke. It's just really irritating to fight against an ability like that. I think that abilities should be focused more on giving your own unit strength and giving your own units some sort of edge in combat. And I think that the unit type should be where you get your debuffs and your things like slowing units down, for example, the spear example that I gave. I think that is where debuffs should be focused. So then you have 2 ways of looking at it, okay? You have your general abilities, which are all about giving your units more strength, making them harder to kill, making them better, making them faster, making them shoot better. All of that on one end, and then you have unit types that engage each other. And when unit types engage each other, then you have this play on debuffs. You know, a sword attacking a spear makes them lose 10% attack because swords are better than spears in, you know, the grinding fight. Maybe a hoplite gets a armor bonus from fighting certain units or things like that. And I think that it shouldn't be always standard, okay? Certain units, perhaps like foot companions, might just not care about swords, you know, and their buff or whatever, and you have a lot of ways to balance that. You have a lot of room on that, and you have a lot of ways to make a lot of units more interesting than that in that system. Currently, I think that you have very little room to balance heavy infantry versus medium infantry versus light infantry, and I think one of the ways that you could balance that out would be to have each of these units interact with each other in a much different way and have systems of interaction that are just much more passive and not have it be such an ability focused game at the moment. I think that the unit types should interact with each other in a much more fundamental way than they currently do, to create a game that promotes, in the long run, a lot more team play and less of Thurio spears are fast, Thurio spears kill everything, Thurio spears are the best, okay? What if Thurio spears as light infantry have a horrible, horrible bonus? They just get killed by heavy infantry and things like that, okay? Due to a system of buffs that makes counterplay possible, okay? As a player, I become the anti-Thurio spear player, okay? If I see Thurio spears across the map, maybe as a player I should consider going over across the map to counter the Thurio spears. Stuff like that. Stuff that actually promotes movement and gameplay and thought, instead of, I have this unit, it's the best unit at doing this, it'll always be the best unit at doing this because it's the Thurio spear, it's the fastest unit in the game, it can run around, do all this stuff, blah 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 blah. Okay? I do not like the direction they've gone in regards to that, okay? I think that unit types should have a buff, debuff system that's specific to them and not specific and separate from general abilities, okay? General's abilities are kind of odd at the moment, and I'm not sure I like the debuff system that they've gone with. I think a perfect general in terms of balance right now, or not maybe in terms of balance, but in terms of how he plays out and how he works, would be Leonidas, okay? I like how all of his abilities in certain respects are about preservation and making his men stronger, okay? Also another broken ability is Warcry. I don't like Warcry. Warcry is a little bit off. I think that unit type on unit type engagements should be the primary motivating or the primary factor for breaking a unit's morale, okay? If cavalry fights archers, the archers should maybe get a huge morale debuff and rout almost instantly if the cav gets in, because they're archers fighting cav. It's not even close. If they get into melee, maybe then you have a massive morale debuff. Morale debuff should not be related to, oh, I have Warcry in his ability, blah, boo. It just feels silly when you are facing stuff like that, or when you're or when you're a Pike player and then suddenly Miltiades shows up and he says, "Your Pike wall? It's silly. Route, because I have 3 fears in my belt." It just doesn't feel fun to play when unit control is just taken from you, and it just feels ridiculous. Okay, so I think abilities like that need reworks. Okay. It would be cool, for example, if it just doesn't work, in my opinion, when you have such powerful abilities, just insta-rout units, or even Anvil. It's just so irritating to fight against. I cannot stress that enough. It's ridiculous. In regards to Pikes, also, I have one more thing to say about this. One last thing. Please make them like stakes, okay? In that they should only cause friendly fire in one direction, and that is the direction where people are walking straight towards them, okay? I don't understand how Pikes cause damage when you're walking past them. Okay, that's it. That's the last thing I have to say about Pikes. I spent way too much time on these. That is really about it, okay? There is one more thing, okay? And that is artillery. Okay, artillery in general, and this is specifically related to onagers and how effective they are at Jin sniping, okay? And this is another reason why I think general abilities need to be looked at and examined again, okay? Jin sniping in this game is incredibly crippling, okay? And artillery, they are able to really not only kill a lot of men, but they're able to snipe a general, and I think that they give a team too much map control, okay? They give a team a lot of power in regards to forcing a team to attack. One team gets the camp, so on and so forth. It's really irritating. Artillery needs to be looked at. I think I've covered enough in one video and it's also incredibly long in the tooth, so I'm going to cut it there. I think the next video I make, if I make another video, will be about the map design, and it'll be about forest versus roads, because I think that's also another design flaw that they've had in Arena thus far. You all have a good one. Good night, everybody. Ciao.